One of the best things that make us happy is when we do things for others.
My mantra is finite heartbeats, infinite possibilities.
It is so hard to be humble, and yet the only way to learn is to be humble.
If that voice is inside of me, you'll see it in my body language.
Having smart people around you can give you a lot of reality check.
Coming in with a natural curiosity and a humbleness that we don't have all the answers leads to much greater success.
So, Mark, again, welcome. You and I were talking, and you said something that triggered this expert circle conversation. You said, textbook answers are rarely correct. So let's jump into it. Why would you say that? What's behind that thought?
Well, as you know, the educational system emphasizes analysis and the analytics, and that's important for specialization, for precise scientific information, objective truth, etc. But in business and the world at large, the analytical isn't the exact appropriate thing in many cases. It's really synthesis. We need to take the analysis, but blend it with a number of inputs and look at something and look at a problem from a number of different perspectives. And the textbook focuses on the analytical to an absolute answer, but it has a number of variables and conditions that are ignored or are preset. And in the real world, those variables is what makes up the difference. And the difference between success and failure often is the variables and being able to assess conflicting information and being able to assess non-analytical information more.
So, do you think it's the access to the data that makes it less valuable, or is it the way we process that data is different? Which one?
It's absolutely the latter. I mean, it is the problem is that oftentimes we get stuck in silos, and even though many of our universities claim to have liberal education, they still have siloed off. Each department has its own silo and looks at things from a particular perspective with a set of blinders. And in the real world, we need to take information and be able to take and apply critical thinking skills, apply some thought process that is not just specifically to an analysis of a controlled environment, but rather is a living, breathing environment that has multiple variables, many of which you can't control, but you need to assess and figure in their impact on the ultimate outcome.
And many of which are not static, meaning that it's not the world changes. I talk about the same customers that you have now are not the same customers you had 5 years ago. The same employees are not the same as as you had 5 years ago. Their expectations, what makes them happy or unhappy, what their desires, the same technology isn't the same. So the variables are not necessarily the same externally all the time either.
Absolutely. In fact, it's most likely that your existing longtime customers are going to have a change in priority and a change in expectations over time. And what worked with them and what was important to them 5, 10 years ago is not going to be the utmost importance to them today.
Yeah. So I'm going to come back to this because you said something that's interesting. But I am part of the guilty academics. I teach at engineering school and business school at USC. So I'm part of, I guess, the group that is making things a little less open. But I try to talk about critical thinking and how important it is. But nowadays, I open up every class when we begin a new semester with this slide that I frankly don't know where I think I saw this in a museum somewhere that under a writing on a wall or something, and I don't know who it is, so I'm not taking full credit for it. This thing about education, I think it's not about, and I think this is the way we treat it, that there is a vase, a container, and we pour water in it in order to fill it with information and intelligence. where education should actually be that igniting something in your brain, where there's a fire that ignites, and then it has its own ability to learn other things and so forth. So there's a level of education that you need the basics of doing A, B, C, and D, but then the real education happens when you're on fire. And what that means is there's undefined, uncontrolled environments to it, right?
Absolutely. And in fact, it goes back to Emerson's call to respect the child.
Mm.
It's far more effective in education to be able to take a child who's interested in nature, for example, and help them understand math from the perspective of how it applies in nature, as opposed to forcing them to stop thinking about nature and think only of math in its purest form. It's uncovering that passion that each of us have as individuals and being able to stimulate that fire of education that comes from within and what their perspective is.
Thanks for watching. You can catch the full Expert Circle sessions through the links in the description or the pinned comment below. And if you found this helpful, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. I'll see you inside the Academy.